Start Over Strong, Life After a DUI, a podcast for people, not offenders. Brought to you by Smart Start, the nation's most trusted, judgment-free ignition interlock provider. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Morgan Ryan and this is Stigma Free IID. Today I have a very important episode planned with a personal friend of mine and a fellow podcast star. This episode is about DUI fatality, the impact of that fatality, both in the moment and for years to come. I want to introduce to you a very special guest. Her name is Brenda Siri. Brenda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Morgan.
Yes, I'm so excited to have this conversation. I'm personally a huge fangirl of your show, Success Factor. Please tell me a little bit about yourself and that show.
So my show is Success Factors, where I talk with business owners, business leaders in the community and around the world. We talk about business topics ranging from, I've talked with doctors, I've talked with actually a company that provides payment methods for incarcerated individuals. I've talked with a company that does peaceful cremation of pets. So it's not really the same show every time, but there's just, there's always something for someone who's watching to learn about.
Yes, I think that's why I'm personally a fan of the show. You know, you're very magnetic and likable, and I think that's what we're all looking for, really, in a good podcaster.
Yeah.
But also, I think the conversations you're having, they really are a span on the spectrum for me as someone who, you know, feels entrepreneurial in spirit. And I think you are also comfortable and confident having difficult conversations. And I think that's what today's episode is about. I wanted to share with the audience that how Brenda and I met. We actually were here both collectively at the studio and just fell in love in the dressing room. And we were like instantly friends. And I think our personalities and spirits connected. And then we got to talking about what it is that we both do.
Yes.
And I was shocked. I couldn't believe that, you know, God had sort of brought us together in this really magical way. And so I was able to learn your story. And as far as I know, this is a platform for you to share that story. I don't know that you have shared that story before, at least not on a stage this large.
No.
And I am so grateful for the opportunity to have this conversation today. I think it's going to be very beneficial for those in our community, albeit mommy wine culture, addicts in recovery. You know, I talk about all the things on my show, marijuana. I talk about alcoholism, recovery, reform, daily discipline, all of the things. And so fatality is something that you unfortunately know personally when it comes to driving under the influence.
Yeah.
So without further ado, Brenda, would you mind sharing with me the story that you shared with me that day in the dressing room?
Sure. So I got married very young and was married for about 5 years, and we did end up getting divorced, but we had one son together. And you know, I felt like it was really important. It wasn't our son's fault that, you know, we got divorced, but you know, unfortunately, my former husband was physically abusive. He was verbally abusive, and he horribly abused alcohol. I mean, I was at home with a baby, and he would say he was going out with his friends for the night on a Friday night, and I wouldn't see him until Sunday, you know, and that was back in the day when we didn't have cell phones. We didn't, you know, I didn't know where he was at all. And sometimes it was just that he was out partying all weekend and cheating on me. And sometimes it was that he'd been arrested. And, you know, it was just a lifestyle that I wasn't willing to live. And so we ended up divorced. And we did our best to get along for the sake of our son. But when my son was a freshman in high school, I take that back. He was in the 8th grade, and he decided he wanted to go and live with his dad.
Okay.
And
so 14.
He was probably about 13 when he made that decision, and I supported it. You know, he's old enough to make those decisions, and so he did, and lived with him for about a year. And he was probably a week away from finishing the 9th grade, and he called me and he said, Mom, my dad's in jail.
Hmm.
And I said, oh, okay. I mean, it wasn't great news, but it wasn't something I hadn't heard before.
Sure.
And he said, he's in jail and he was in a really bad wreck last night. And he didn't know a lot of the details. And so I called my former mother-in-law and she said, it's bad. He killed someone.
Oh my God.
And, you know, yeah, it
Brenda,
was a
what
lot.
went through your mind in that moment?
You know, I didn't know a lot of the details in that moment. But I mean, the first thing I thought was, oh my God, that's the worst possible thing that could happen,
The
right?
worst possible thing that could happen has
Yeah.
happened.
Yes, the worst. And I had just seen him maybe like a week before. He had just bought a brand new pickup truck, a dually, right? So 4 wheels on the back, 4-seater. I mean, this was a massive truck that he was driving. When I learned the details, it was horrifying. But I think in the immediate moment, it was, I need to deal with my son, right? I've got this 14-year-old boy who, you know, lived probably 30 minutes away from me. He had 1 week left of school. I wasn't going to make a big change for him. So I went to see my former husband to talk to him to find out what happened and make arrangements to let my son finish 1 week of school and then come back to live with me.
And this was before you had told your son, you hadn't communicated yet the details that there was a fatality. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So you've gone out as a mother, and even if we rewind, you've lived years of your life with this man. You know the truth behind who he is. You've seen the behavior.
I have.
So you let your baby
Go live with him.
go live with him.
I
What a
know.
mature response, though, to allow your children to make the independent choice.
Right.
As a 13-year-old, so you let him go, so to speak, knowing that this is the man. And then here he is in this big moment, about to enter into summer as a freshman, his first year of high school. And his father has gone out, done the thing he's always done, which is decided to drive impaired, and has killed someone in his dually, very large truck.
And let me tell you something. I think the first feeling I felt was, wow, you're a horrible mother. Why did you even let your child go live with him? My son could have been in that vehicle with him. I don't know. I just didn't think that, I don't know what I thought. I really don't know what I thought, to be honest with you. But I will say that after the accident and my son came to live with me, sadly, I learned that in that 1 year that they lived together, he would go out and party. And he had a girlfriend at the time that lived there, and he would call her and make her and my son get up in the middle of the night and drive to wherever he was so my son could drive his car home.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how horrible. I still feel a lot of guilt about that I should have just said no to my son, but I didn't, you know.
It's not your fault. And guilt is something that we carry as mothers.
Yeah.
I don't know that we ever do it perfectly. That's the point. We do it in our own way. We do it beautifully with the child that God has given us in that moment, and we do the best that we can. Now, I talk a lot about modeling moderation when it comes to substances, and our children, as we know statistically, by the age of 10, have made up their mind about what they think around alcohol. In a recent episode, I talked about those parents that I was maybe around a lot in high school. My friends had parents who I was exposed to that would allow us to drink. They would allow us to do things, and they thought, well, if it's in a controlled environment and I'm not, letting them go to someone else's house, I can at least see and observe. But what that actually does is the gateway to early addiction and horrific onset alcoholic behavior. So yes, perhaps you could have done something differently. There's always the opposite answer of what we choose. However, your son was able to witness firsthand as a 13, 14-year-old this behavior and being exposed to that and not hiding it from him. I think what we've seen statistically is more powerful, and it's a healthier thing for them to see than it is to pretend and to hide it. Children also, as far as I know, they do have a tendency to emulate, but they also have a tendency to choose healthier behaviors. And thank God he has a healthy parent. One of you was healthy, and that was you, Brenda. So,
And my son does not drink.
and your son does not drink.
No,
Yeah,
not at
and
all.
that's gonna make that got me.
Yeah.
And and it's not that alcohol is bad. I say all the time, Brenda, that alcohol is not evil. Marijuana is not evil. These substances are not evil, but it's how we use them and consume them. Alcohol is a poison. It is. We know that to be true. I just talked about a very difficult statistic on the last show around wine and the study that the CDC came out with, and it's not healthy. We thought it's healthy, and guess what? It's not. It turns out it's not healthy. So yes, there's antioxidants, but it's a lot worse for your body. So in these moments, you decide you're going to speak to your husband or your ex-husband before telling your son. What was that like for you? You had to go
to a jail.
to jail.
Yeah, I did. And it wouldn't be the last time. Well, in the beginning, he denied it. He said that someone else was driving and they got out and ran and pulled him into the driver's seat and was setting him up. That was the initial story.
Did you believe that?
Probably deep down inside, no, but I think he was pretty convincing. I mean, sadly, addicts are really good at telling stories and being convincing. So in that moment, I was like, wow, okay. And he would call and talk to my son and tell him that this will all be over soon. It'll be okay. But as time went along, I learned some pretty interesting things. So he had used that big, beautiful, brand new truck to help a friend tow a boat somewhere to a mechanic place. And they were only supposed to be there maybe an hour or two. And it turned into many hours. And my former husband got mad that he was going to be there for hours. And so he left the guy that it was his boat and said, I'm going to a bar down the road and let me know when it's time to go.
Any excuse is an excuse to drink.
Yeah. So this bar, it was less than a mile away. Like, that's all. He didn't even have to go that far. He went there and proceeded to drink and drink and drink and drink and drink and drink. And when he got the call that the guy was ready for him to come pick him up in the boat, my former husband thought, oh, that far to go, I'm fine.
He gets in the truck.
I can handle it. Well, he started to leave, and there was a good Samaritan in the bar who begged him not to get behind the wheel because he was so visibly drunk. And he was, my former husband basically told him in a very unkind way to mind his own business, and he was fine. And the guy was so worried that he followed him. He left the bar and got in his car and followed him. And he witnessed the entire accident happen.
Oh my God.
It was a 2-lane road. And, he swerved in a super gigantic big truck, hit a car head on, and the truck kept going over the car and hit the car behind him. So there was a couple in that car, the first car he hit, and the driver was killed immediately, and his wife was in the passenger seat, and she was not killed. She lived, but was pretty badly injured, and so was the woman driving the car behind them. So one fatality and two extremely badly injured people. Here's a God thing for you. The man that he killed, they were in a very small town, and the man that he killed was the town preacher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
how does that,
I'll take a drink of water on that one.
Yeah, how does that detail, which is a pretty powerful detail, how does that, how did you process that? How'd that make you feel?
I felt very, I mean, you know, God does things for a reason. In the moment, I just felt horrible, even though I knew it wasn't my fault. I felt so bad for that family. Now I feel bad for a whole town. You know, a whole town is impacted over this man's death. So it was awful. What's amazing is that it could have been any other person that he killed. But the wife, she's the reason he got a lower sentence, because she said, my children have all lost their father. My daughter will never see her father walk her down the aisle. He'll miss seeing her graduate from college. He'll miss seeing her have kids. He'll miss everything. But that man who killed my husband, he's got a little boy. And I don't want that little boy to lose his father forever. So he got a second-degree murder sentence, and he served 18 years in prison. And that was a big life changer, because now I'm taking my son to see his dad in prison, not a jail. This is it. I mean, this is the big time. He got put into, you know, a facility where there were murderers, you know, who had like taken knives and taken guns and killed people. And I'm going to be honest with you, initially, as a mom who had to take my child to do that, I kind of thought, well, he's not really a murderer. I mean, he didn't wake up that day with the intention of ending that day killing someone. But as time went along, it was like, no, I mean, what he did is bad. He took a man's life. He took a man from a family and from a whole town and a church congregation. And so, you know, as time went on, my perspective about it changed. Because I knew where he was where he had to be.
Do you believe, when it comes to accountability, do you believe that your husband was well aware at any point in time, as an alcoholic perhaps, that he was capable of killing somebody? Or do you believe that there was a level of denial there?
Yeah, I think there was a major level of denial. I think he totally thought, that'll never happen to me. I mean, look, that day it was, I only have a mile to drive. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know? And so, yeah, I think there was a lot of denial.
At any point in time, did your husband, did he know he was an alcoholic? Did he admit it out loud?
Later in prison.
Later, okay.
But in the moment, no. And I'm going to tell you something crazy. He had had 2 prior DUIs that year. And he had just been told that they were going to put one of those things on that you have to blow into.
One of these? A car
Yes.
breathalyzer?
Yes.
So 2 DUIs
Yes.
and still no breathalyzer.
Right. It had just been told that that was going to be happening to his vehicle.
Well, this is a good opportunity for me to speak very openly about 2 things. Number 1, alcoholism, and number 2, ignition interlock devices. I'm someone who, I've told my story on the show. I had to release myself and my two small children from my family due to my ex-partner being a severe coping alcoholic, diagnosed. And he, as an alcoholic, I spent nearly half my life trying to help him through a diagnosis, through church, through groups, through books, through being on my knees, face down to the Lord. And, they say, and it was always denial, massive denial. There's still denial to this day. In that sense, he was never able to get to step one, admission of there being a problem. And so when we talk about alcoholism and getting to any level of recovery, it requires accountability, and it requires being able to admit that there is a problem. And if we can't admit that we have a problem, then we can't get to, really the next level. And so we say, well, they've reached rock bottom. Well, when they reach rock bottom, there's actually usually a basement below that rock bottom. And so until they get to that place, which is different for everybody, unfortunately, eventually it sounds like you got an admission. Eventually at his rock bottom and then this basement, he reached a place of admitting that he had a problem. It took prison, and it took taking someone's life and injuring others, but that's my position on alcoholism. Number two, ignition interlock devices and car breathalyzers, they work. They prevent an individual from starting their vehicle in the event that they're under the influence of a substance or of alcohol. And if he had a car breathalyzer in his truck that day, he wouldn't have been able to start the vehicle. He wouldn't have been able to drive that vehicle. And perhaps the loss of this life could have been prevented. Do you agree with that?
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because it would have been on that vehicle the next week.
Right. Yeah. So. And all states are different. Different states require different installation windows. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to get it within a matter of hours, days. And then if you're a subsequent offender, which it sounds like your husband was a subsequent offender, and for him, and I think about your son and you as individuals, and myself, we do the best we can to help the person that we see and love. And as a society, how do we collectively come together to prevent fatality? Well, this is a pretty good way of doing it, is through the use of ignition interlock devices and car breathalyzers, because your ex-husband clearly had a problem. He had 2 DUIs prior to this, and we were slow to respond. That's why IIDs matter. The wife's response of the pastor or the preacher that lost his life, I'm overwhelmed, I think, by that response. I hear those types of things in church all the time. My question is, do you believe now, did you believe then that your ex-husband deserved that amount of forgiveness?
In the moment that woman so graciously spoke in court, she was thinking about all the children that were involved, right? And so in that moment, I really just thought, this woman,
she's a mama.
She's a mother. She's a God-fearing woman, and she saw a way to at least show a little bit of forgiveness for a situation for the sake of my child.
Yeah. And it helped your child, as far as I know. What was the experience like for him?
Oh.
Even from the moment he found out?
In the moment he found out, my former husband wasn't really being super honest with him, and so and kept giving him this level of hope that he'd be out in a matter of a week or two. It would be fine. Everything would be fine. And what I can tell you is I will never forget the moment, the very moment that I had to tell my son that his father was going to prison for 18 years. It was really sad. Um, when I told him, he opened the door of my house, the front door, and ran down the street screaming.
His heart was breaking.
Screaming, just no. And my son's a big guy. He's big, he was already playing junior varsity football, and he was screaming, he was sobbing. It was gut wrenching, and I'm chasing after him, trying to, grab him and hold him and hug him. And that was painful.
How did you handle that as a mother?
I had to stay strong for him. I had to, we got into some therapy.
Good.
We had to get some support. And my role then became now to take him to prison to see his dad. I didn't look, a very gracious woman wanted them to stay connected and have a relationship. And it wasn't like we were always just going to be doing those collect calls, and they were going to have a great bond. So, and I don't know how much you know about this. I didn't know until I'd gone through the experience, but you don't just get put in a prison that's like right down the way. You go somewhere very far away. So the very first prison that he was put into, because he did get moved around a few times, the very first one he went to was about a 5-hour drive away from home in the middle of nowhere. I didn't know what you had to go through to get in there. Let me tell you, there were some humiliating moments for me. I'm just there as the mother of my son and his ex-wife, but I had on a bra that had metal in it, and I had to have them loan me scissors so that I could go into a bathroom and cut that metal out. Those are things I never thought about or knew I'd have to experience, but I never thought to myself, I'm not going to wreck this bra. So, my son needed to go see his dad. He needed that.
This image that you've given to us is incredibly significant. I believe that imagery is very powerful and impactful in terms of changing hearts and minds and being convincing and being so brave to tell the truth. I had spoken before about the moment when I was pregnant and I sat down on the couch and I heard the crunch and I'm picking up the couch cushion and there's beer cans in there. And those humiliating moments where you're the one who's picking up the bag and you're carrying that baggage and you're thinking to yourself, why am I the one doing this? Why am I paying this price? But you pay the price because it's your family and you don't have a choice, and you step up and you do it. And the image of you cutting out the underwire in your bra so that your baby can go in there and see his dad is quite selfless and humiliating, though, at the same time. And now, your strength comes off immediately. You're somebody that I want to be around. You're somebody that I think like-minded people want to be around. And there's a graciousness there, right? Like a grace under fire. And you've just described to me a reason why you come off that way naturally, because you have literally walked through the fire, it sounds like. So when your son is doing this, he's in therapy, his dad is 5 hours away. How often did your son get to see his dad?
When he was in that particular facility, not very often. It was a bit traumatizing to go there, to be honest with you. It was maximum security prison.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Maximum security prison.
Initially, that's where he was, because it was a murder conviction, And so, beyond the initial humility of having to, dismantle my bra to get in, we then had to, go get on a bus that took us to the maximum security area of the prison. We had to get out. We had to, a gate opened and we got put in there, and then it closed behind us. And then the one in front of us opened so we could get through. And, in that moment where these are not small gates. I mean, it's big and they're tall and there's barbed wire at the top. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at it and I'm looking at my son and we're both just kind of like, wow.
Are we in a movie?
Yeah.
This is real life.
Yeah.
Is that what you felt like? You were in a movie?
Yeah. It felt like, I mean, it felt like movies that you see where this happens. And I mean, you know, you're seeing it and you're like, this is unbelievable. And there's a part of you that's like, wow, I really can't believe this is happening, you know? And it was a lot for both of us.
Yeah.
You know, you get inside and you can't, you know, my son missed his dad. He hadn't seen him in a long time, like a good year and a half. He wanted to hug his dad. And I mean, they were like, stop, that's enough. Don't touch each other, you know? And so it's just so sad. And it made me pretty angry as well, you know, because it's like, I'm not angry at the guard that told my son not to hug his dad. I'm angry at his dad. Like, wow, thanks. Look what you've done to us. Look what you've done to this little boy that we're in a maximum security prison right now.
How did you get through that? How did you work through that grief and anger?
Therapy, you know,
Lots of
it. You gotta talk about it. You know, you can't just keep it all inside. And conversations with my former husband, I took those collect calls, you know, and
Good for you.
yeah, and had conversations with him. I mean, look, he got out of the maximum level security because of me. He called and he asked me if I would consider writing a letter on his behalf to help get him reduced down, not to minimum security, you know, but to not be, I did it for my son.
Because we have his life is still here.
Right.
Your son's life is still here.
Right.
The preacher or the pastor, you know, we can sit here and complain all day about this terrible situation that everybody's going through. It's still terrible.
Yes.
It's still traumatizing.
Sure.
We understand that the preacher and the pastor maybe doesn't get this. I don't know if he had children.
He did.
So his children didn't get to see him at all. But they've decided to step up in a place of ultimate and extreme miraculous forgiveness.
Yes.
When they can't see their father until they get to the other side of heaven, they say, no, we're going to put our chips in this bucket.
Right.
Even though this man took our father out, we want him to have time with his son. You've decided to do the same. You go to therapy. You help write the letter. He's in maximum security prison, and then we've got it minimized at some point. So did he really serve 18 years, or was it less?
No, he did. He served it. He served 18 years. I will say he took his time in prison and did good things. He actually had not finished college, so he got his bachelor's degree. He went on to get his master's degree, and he went on to get his PhD in theology. And
Theology.
Theology
of all things. I have goosebumps. Okay.
And the funny thing is,
there's more funny things, and that's not just the only funny thing.
well, I talk to him sometimes, and he'll be like, you know, the way I did it was like using a chisel, and you know, he makes jokes like he was chiseling in stone his papers, you know. But I mean, he didn't have computers to do his work on. I mean, he did have to handwrite everything, and yeah, he went all the way to get his PhD. So I'm proud of him for that.
And he now has a PhD.
He does, yes.
And what is he doing now that he's out? Tell me that part of the story.
He's not doing well.
Okay.
He did for a while. He came out. I will tell you the thing that kind of blew my mind the most, because now we all know what got him in there.
Yeah.
And he came out of prison after 18 years and got his driver's license essentially handed back to him. He didn't even have to go take a driving test.
Okay, somebody ought to look into that.
Can
we get one of the producers to look into that?
That is in the state of California.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, they just gave him his driver's license right back, which is amazing to me, quite honestly. But he did really, really well for like the first 5 years he was out. I mean, he had to meet with a probation officer or parole officer, I guess. Yeah, parole officer. He had to relearn the world. I mean,
Right.
things change fast in this world.
Fast.
And, my son had to teach him how to use a cell phone. Had to show him what stuff was, social
Did anybody
media.
hire him?
He actually does have a job, and he went back into the industry he was in before the accident,
Okay.
and has done pretty well. But
Is he back to alcohol now? Yeah.
I
Was he sober
he was sober for years.
through? Okay, right.
years.
Obviously through prison, and after that,
And
he was
after.
still sober.
For years.
Okay, so it's creeped back in.
It's creeped back in. But oddly enough, within the last month, he actually called me under the influence, and we had a conversation. And I reached out to him the next day, and I said, "I'm really worried about you." And I said, "Do you remember the phone call?" He didn't. He did, but he didn't. He didn't remember everything he said. And I just said, "Look, I'm really, really worried about you." And he said, "I know. I've stood in front of the mirror and had a long talk with God this morning, and I'm going to change. And I hope he does."
For some reason, it's like, in my personal experience, I still feel like that burden is my responsibility because I have children. And I think as a loving Christian, right, I identify my God as, Jesus. And Jesus calls us to serve those around us. And despite the pain I've been through, it's still a burden to me in a way. I mean, I often ask multiple times a week the same question to my ex-husband, and I say, "Do you want to go to a meeting with me? Do you want to go to a meeting with me?" And I will not give up ever, because I have children and I am not married. If I ever do remarry, I will still continue to ask my first husband if he will go to a meeting with me. And I think you've hit on maybe an iceberg for me personally, that you still care. You're still maybe not passionate about his recovery, but it is, in a way, I think, our responsibility to say, "I'm someone that's in your purview that needs to say this to you. Do you remember that conversation we had yesterday, sir?
Right.
You have a problem.
Right.
Let's not do that again," or whatever it is.
Right.
Do you think that it is still your burden to bear in a way?
No, I don't. I made the call the next day to talk to him for my son's sake.
For your son's sake, as a mother.
As a mother.
I agree.
But I have not called him again to check on him, to see how he's doing.
Yes, he's a grown adult.
He is.
And it is his responsibility, and that's where the accountability comes into play.
That's right.
But as a mom, we never stop being a mom. We're a mom forever. The word continues, right? We never stop. I think that's a really good place for me. I want to understand a little bit more about your success and how you really took, ashes and you grew this beautiful thing today. I was so shocked when you told me your story, because you're so much on the other side of it. And it's so hopeful to me. You're just so full of hope. But I also want to know your position on accountability. Like, what do you say to the people listening today who are on all sides of the spectrum?
There's no excuse to get behind the wheel of a car. Like you said, alcohol in moderation's fine. But there's still, to me, if you are drunk, call an Uber, call a Lyft.
Yeah.
Don't drive. I still am astonished today when I hear reports of DWI accidents. I don't understand it. There's no excuse for it. That day changed so many people's lives, not just his. It changed his family's, his sons, on our side. And then there's the whole other side of the person who passed away and his family and his church congregation. And there's just no excuse. And so I say, from an accountability standpoint, make a commitment that if you're going to go out with your girlfriends or your guy friends this weekend and drink, either have a designated driver who's committed to not drinking, or have a commitment to get an Uber or a Lyft.
Rideshare, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because there's no excuse for it.
Yeah. I always say, if you feel different, you drive different.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
You feel different, you're going to drive different.
Yep.
And I agree with you on accountability. I also think when we talk about drinking in general, recreationally and socially, alcohol works. It's, if it's not being used to cope, it's a pretend working mechanism, right? But people drink socially to feel different. They do it to relax and unwind. And in a recent episode I did with Satchel Stillwell, it's called Do I Have a Problem? And we walk through all the assessment questions, like, do I drink to feel buzzed? Do I drink to change my mood? And how do we diagnose really for ourselves and take a moment of self-reflection? But, I think it's a pretty drastic amount, a high percentage of the country, they don't have access to rideshare. Well, if you don't have access to rideshare, it is 2026. You are grown adults. You have to take responsibility. And I agree with you in that sense. We're just too technologically advanced. And we do have a volunteer program at Smart Start where you can get a breathalyzer put in your vehicle to prevent yourself from doing that. Nice. We also have a portable handheld device that, I've taken out with my girlfriends when the company gave it to me to test it, to see. We've all been in that moment where we're at brunch and we're like, do you feel good to drive? I don't know. Do I feel good to drive? Who's good to drive? Are we all good to drive? You don't drive in that scenario, because if you feel different, you drive different. And you can find all those devices on smartstartinc.com. You can also reach out to me on Instagram. I have tons of friends out there that I have conversations with every day. Moms and all the alcohol, people that are struggling with alcoholism, people in sobriety, with these types of devices and how we can get them for you. So your success, Brenda, you have, completely blown through all of these barriers that the enemy and the world has put in your way, and you have completely come out the other side of it. Your son is so blessed to have witnessed this, and he doesn't even drink alcohol.
No, he does not.
So if you had to summarize for me, what did it take to get where you are today?
Oh, well, I think a lot of empathy is where I would start. I'm a very naturally empathetic person.
I agree.
And, having the ability to say what's most important is making sure that my son is okay, and that there is, a relationship maintained with his dad, even while he's in prison, right? So I think that my empathy, my care, my desire to make sure that I took all the right steps to give my son as much stability in light of a bad situation was most important for me. People will say, gosh, Brenda, you're so successful. You've got your own business. It's really successful. I hear you on the radio. I see you on TV. I watch your podcast. To them, those things make me successful. But to me, what makes me successful is when my kids say they love me, when they say they respect me, or that they appreciate me. That's where my success comes from, right? That's first and foremost what's important to me. you know.
You are such a dream.
Oh my gosh.
Happy Mother's Day,
thank
by the
you.
way.
Yes, to you too.
Yesterday was Mother's
Yes,
Day.
it was.
You're just a burst of sunshine.
Thank you.
I know that you've alluded to the battles today that you had to go through. I think you're an absolute inspiration.
Thank
I'm
you.
grateful that you shared all of your story. I think there's maybe a part 2 and a part 3 in there if you'll
Oh,
come
girl,
back.
there's a part 2.
Oh, girl.
I promise. There was a second husband. Ah.
Okay, so soon to come, Brenda Siri, episode 2. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining the episode today with the fantastic and beautiful Brenda Siri. Appreciate you joining. If you or a loved one find yourself in a situation where you have a DUI and you do need an ignition interlock device, I believe in Smart Start's Ignition Interlock Device Program. You can visit www.smartstartinc.com. You can also get your first 2 payments free with coupon code Stigma Free, or you can call the number below. Thank you again, and until next time, stay safe, drive smart.